Today, we are diving deep into Jeannette Walls' absolutely unforgettable memoir, The Glass Castle. This is a story that, I promise you, challenges just about everything you think you know about family, about resilience, and about the fragile promises that can end up defining a life.
You know, this one line from Jeannette Walls, it really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this childhood where a relentless hunger for knowledge and for wonder existed right alongside the most profound, heartbreaking neglect. It just perfectly sets the stage for a story of incredible and often really painful contrasts.
And that is what makes this book so unbelievably powerful. This isn't just someone telling you what happened. No, it's a deep, unflinching reckoning with memory, with family, and with the myths we all inherit versus the truths we have to claw and fight to find for ourselves. So let's start there. This first part is all about understanding how this book is truly a journey of coming to terms with a past that was just filled with these glittering dreams. Dreams that, more often than not, shattered under the weight of a very harsh reality.
All right, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by really getting the book's unique structure, which is its own act of reckoning. Then, we'll travel through the three key stages of Jeannette's life: the chaotic freedom of the desert, the crushing poverty of Welch, and that determined escape to New York. And we'll wrap it all up by digging into the profound lessons we can find among the ruins of her past.
So Walls does something brilliant here. She organizes her life into 5 movements. It kicks off with this shocking moment, seeing her mother homeless in New York. Then, boom, it flashes back to her nomadic childhood in the desert. From there, we descend into the grim poverty of Welch, follow the kids' escape to New York, and it all concludes with a bittersweet Thanksgiving. This structure, it's not just chronological, it perfectly mirrors the story's emotional arc, from chaos to clarity, and from just barely surviving to finally defining oneself.
Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. The first big phase of Jeannette's life takes place in the deserts of the Southwest. And it was a time that was really defined by this wild mix of exhilarating freedom and a constant simmering danger.
And we need to be crystal clear about this. This was not some fun family road trip. The Walls family completely rejected conventional life. They lived out of cars, out of shacks, out of tents, all across Arizona, Nevada, California, and they were frequently without food, without electricity, or even running water.
Now, what's so wild about this period is the sheer contrast. I mean, think about this. Jeannette's earliest memory is of being set on fire while cooking hot dogs, by herself at age 3. Yet that danger was right next to these incredible moments of wonder. Her brilliant but troubled father, Rex, taught her physics and astronomy. He literally gave her a planet for Christmas. Meanwhile, her mother, Rosemary, was an artist who put adventure and art above everything, often choosing to paint instead of cook a meal for her starving kids.
But that kind of fragile, romanticized chaos, well, it couldn't last. The family's move to Rex's hometown in West Virginia marks a dark, brutal turning point. This is where things don't just fray, they completely collapse.
Once they hit Welch, any little bit of romanticism that was left from the desert days, it just crushed by the stark reality of extreme poverty. They move into this dilapidated house on a hill, a rotten, falling-apart structure with no plumbing, no heat, and a roof that leaked constantly. This is where the story hits rock bottom.
The hardship here is it's unimaginable. The kids are sleeping under piles of old coats just to survive the brutal winters. They often have nothing to eat, to the point where they're digging through the trash cans at school for food. And all the while, Rex's alcoholism is spiraling out of control. He disappears for days on end, and even steals the money his own children had painstakingly saved up to escape.
And just when you think it can't get any more maddening, you get a moment like this that shows you just how complex her parents were. While her children are literally starving, Rosemary inherits land in Texas worth $1 million. $1 million. But does she sell it? No, she refuses, saying that materialism is beneath her. It's a moment that's so tragic and infuriating, and it just perfectly captures the perplexing, self-defeating logic that ran their entire lives.
But you know, it's often in the deepest darkness that you start to see a little flicker of light. And this next section is all about that, the children's escape and their reinvention. It's an absolute testament to their incredible will to survive and to build a new life, a real life for themselves.
And they do it. They actually pull it off. One by one, the siblings escape to New York City. They get jobs, they put themselves through college, and they build the stable, purposeful lives they were always denied.
Jeannette herself becomes a successful journalist, writing for major publications. They basically build a new family, relying completely on each other. But of course, the past is never that far behind, is it? Rex and Rosemary eventually follow their kids to New York, but true to form, they choose to be homeless rather than conform to any kind of normal life. Jeannette is just torn apart, caught between the shame of her past and this deep loyalty to the family she can't completely abandon. The story ultimately culminates with Rex's death and a final bittersweet Thanksgiving where the remaining family toasts to his complicated, messy life.
So after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this incredible story of survival? Well, in our final section, let's explore the core themes and the big lessons that really emerge from the ruins of the Walls family life.
This memoir really forces you to grapple with some huge ideas. I mean, obviously there's the unbelievable resilience and self-reliance of the kids, but then you have the central symbol of the glass castle itself. The book makes you confront this idea of parental complexity. How can you love someone who has so deeply, deeply failed you? And ultimately, it's a story about identity, about how you square the past you were given with the person you fight to become.
So you can't really get this book without understanding the title, The Glass Castle. This was Rex's ultimate promise. It was his blueprint for this magnificent, solar-powered home he swore he would build for them in the desert. It represented hope, sure, but it also represented illusion. This beautiful fantasy that kept the children believing in him long, long after they probably should have.
And here's the kicker. The castle is never built. Of course it isn't. It remains a blueprint of broken promises. But the dream of it, the idea of it, that's what's so powerful. It profoundly shapes the entire family's identity and their really complex relationship with hope and disappointment.
And how Walls tells this story is absolutely key to its power. She writes with a journalist's precision. It's unsentimental, it's direct, even when she's describing unbelievable trauma. She doesn't tell you how to feel, she just lays out the facts and lets the emotional weight hit you squarely without any kind of manipulation. Her use of recurring images, like fire, stars, and glass, just adds this whole other layer of meaning to the story.
In the end, The Glass Castle does so much more than just tell a story. It kind of holds up a mirror to our own lives. It invites us to stop and think, what were the dreams, the spoken or unspoken ones, that shaped our own childhoods?
And what about the family myths we all inherited? You know, the stories we were told about who we were, what our family stood for, and how did those stories really line up with reality? And finally, the book leaves us with this powerful question for our own lives. What castles did we manage to build from the pieces we were given? And maybe just as important, which ones did we have to abandon so that we could finally move forward?